So my name is Adrian Kanthrubin. I'm a product specialist here at Synology UK. And for our training today, we're going to be talking about how to boost your editing efficiency with Synology. Tips and tricks for maximum productivity. So what's on the agenda for today? Firstly, we're going to go through the normal editing process. We're going to talk mainly about video editing as this is quite a resource-intensive task, but more on that in a bit. Then we're going to understand exactly how Synology can help facing the common challenges in video editing. We'll run through setup as well as how to utilize Synology features. And lastly, we'll go through a case study about how a large production company run studios have been able to implement Synology into their media workflow. I go next. So, how do video editors currently work on large, intensive projects effectively? Once the footage has been shot, the media files are usually brought over to the editor, most likely via an external drive. And once they have the footage, they can start editing. Now, there's usually two ways that we can go about it. One is using online editing, and the other is not using it. So, in the normal editing process, without using online editing, it would involve downloading the media files, doing the edit, then uploading for another editor to come edit and then upload. Or if you're a one-man band, for you to upload for your client asks for changes because that's what clients do, and then you'd have to re-download, edit, then upload. Online editing pretty much speeds up this entire process because all your media files are readily available locally. So all you would need to do is open, edit, and then save. This allows for easier collaboration, and even with all the back and forth, you are not losing time downloading and uploading. Furthermore, normally with online editing, editors would work around this by creating proxy files, which is essentially trading quality for performance. These files are small, low-res files that editors will use instead of their beautiful 4K or 8K footage. These files will need to be created beforehand as well, which can be time-consuming. So it's in this area that we're going to be focusing our training on today, on how best to utilize online editing using a Synology NAS. So when you're deciding a Synology setup for an end user in the media space, I think these are the three key areas that we need to focus on. Storage, obviously, we need to know exactly how much storage they need. Second, then, is the performance metric. This would depend on the intensity of editing as well as the number of users. Networking speed, this would also be involved in the performance, and I'm going to showcase this in just a moment. There are obviously more considerations. However, by fully addressing these 3 points, we'll be able to create a viable Synology solution in a video editing environment. So to put into practice, here we have the specification for a small video editing team, and they're looking to upgrade to a Synology solution. They create promos and short videos for all businesses. They're very well versed in video editing. They are looking for a solution to accommodate both their live storage as well as their archival storage. They would like this to be scalable as well, around 100 terabytes total. Each project is less than 150 gigs and is quite transient, meaning there is a lot of back and forth between themselves and the client. So a lot of downloading and uploading. They're using Premiere Pro on both Mac and Windows PC, and they're using normal video editing, the normal video editing route of creating proxy files, which they create themselves. They're looking for high performance and to cut back on time using those proxy files and the downloading editing of using not online editing. So essentially, we're trying to create an editing and a backup environment all in one. So let's break down exactly what those key areas that we were talking about earlier. So we know they need around 100 terabytes of storage. So this gives us quite a good starting point. But if we were to first go through the hardware performance, we have to decide initially between our desktop or our rack units. The way to tailor this solution would be to understand the nature of the editing environment as well as the number of users. In this case, it's 5 editors, and they would need to perform edits on high res footage. So it's quite an intensive video editing environment. We can actually look even more granularly at at the users. So are the users remote or local? If they are remote, we can set up Synology Drive, and if they're local, we can create a map drive. Both of these would mean that the user would only need to use File Explorer / Finder system. They would not need to worry about any IT configurations. Furthermore, both would allow collaborations cross platforms, so Mac and Windows users will be able to work on the same projects together. And lastly, we have the networking capabilities. Do they have 10 gig? And if they do, how do we fully make use of this connection? So that's just the video editing environment they're looking for. And of course, they wanted a backup environment. And this is a general showcase of how to achieve the industry standard 3-2-1 using Synology. You have your data on your NAS, and using snapshot replication, you can back this up to another NAS. This way, you have very fast recovery times in a high-intensive backup environment. This is quite key. If you delete or modify your data, you can instantly restore. Furthermore, we also have hyper backup, and we can back up your data to our Synology cloud services, Synology C2, or another cloud backup destination of your choice. So once we've understood their specification, we can build them their solution. In this case, we would go for a high-performing Synology desktop unit, the DS3622XS Plus, with 10 16 terabyte drives, and with one of these being a hot spare, this in total provides 101 terabytes of usable capacity. SATA hard drives because they provide sustained performance for their price, making them ideal in a video production environment. SSDs obviously work a lot better. They have flash components. However, the sustained performance to cost ratio, SATA hard drives comes a little bit better. Hot spare because it's a small team, and when a drive starts failing, it'll immediately start the cloning process. So for a team that's not very technical, this can be very useful. We have fully upgraded the RAM to 48 gigs. That's because their projects involve file sizes of up to 100 gigs, and these files being quite transient means that having an upgraded RAM will increase the performance with their video editing while also ensuring they don't hit any insufficient RAM problems. Solution is perfect for 5 editors to collaborate on. They were looking for scalability. The DS3622XS Plus starts off initially with 12 drives, but we can further expand it to 36 drives. And when we can increase the storage, we can also increase the number of editors. Access to snapshot replication and C2 cloud to create that backup environment. All of our Plus series and above have access to snapshot replication as well as a hyper backup to C2 cloud. So this is just a very easy way to create that 3-2-1. Lastly, they have access to both 1 gig and 10 gig Ethernet. So now we have 10 drives in RAID 6, which is more than enough to saturate a 10 gig connection. Just for everyone's edification, 8 6 terabyte drives in RAID 5 will completely saturate a 10 gig connection. Now, they were unsure which speed that they will need to go on. They didn't have a 10 gig backbone created, so they want to know if it was worth getting one. So what we did is we demoed these configurations for them. So first is the 1 gig connection, and these are the parameters that we followed. For these demonstrations, we used full res 4K videos in Premiere Pro. And as you can see, with 1 gig connection, we are capped at 4K video with 25 FPS. So we still get the 4K video, but we're not able to reach the 60 FPS. So if I just start. So here we have one editor going through a series of 4K full resolution files. When going through one video, it's fine. However, as we scrub through, that's where we see the bulk of the performance deficit. However, these issues will not prevent a single editor from effectively editing a full resolution file. It's annoying, however, it is workable. The bulk of the editing will probably take place video to video, meaning the lag is manageable. But what if we wanted to collaborate with another editor or four more editors in this use case? So here what we've done is we've added another editor, and as you can see, it's pretty much unworkable. We are capped at 4K 25 FPS in this 1 gig connection. A full res file being used here with multiple editors. You can see that it grinds any performance to a halt. So when we have multiple editors needing to be on the same project, we're going to need a bigger bandwidth for more efficient data transfer rates. Speaking of, here's our 10 gig demonstration. So as before, we're working with full resolution files still. However, with 10 gigs, we have access to 12K and 60 FPS. And if we start, as you can see, there is no change in the hardware, but we're seeing much higher performance with a 10 gig connection. And for this demonstration, we actually used multiple editors as well. However, the performance was able to match the same as having a single editor. Importantly, when establishing 10 gig for video editing, you need to ensure that you have your MTU, your maximum transmission unit, set to 9,000 in the network settings in the DSM. This will allow for a much more efficient data transfer rate over the 10 gigs. And as you can see, if I go back a little, um, as you can see, we're actually able to play around with editing on this one. We do not elicit a lag response even when we start increasing the speed on this specific video right here, which is normally quite a data intensive task. So with this demonstrated, it was quite easy to understand that for the team specification, 5 editors need to collaborate in a video editing environment. We're going to go with 10 gig. So the DS3622Xs Plus was ideal for a small scale scenario, but what happens when we want to scale this out to enterprise level users? Well, here we have a simple breakdown of our high performing Synology NAS. At the top, we have our all-flash array, our FS6400 handling 40 plus editors with ease. This is due to the FS being optimized for SSDs, meaning you'll be able to get those incredibly fast read and writes. And then we have our scalable solutions handling around 20 editors effectively. The main USP with our SA series is that we can expand the storage much further to reach petabytes. In the media space, growth is not linear. 4K is now the standard, but this could very easily change. The amount of data editors will be handling could increase sporadically, hence a use case for the SA series. So now we're going to run through a use case on how a media production end user actually incorporated Synology into their video editing workflow. Our use case will be on Run Studios, who are a full-service production studio employing 200 individuals, including editors, animators, film crew, and support staff. So essentially, Run Studios were already using Synology NAS in their backup environment. However, they knew it was time for an upgrade, and they laid out their current editing and backup challenges to us. The problem that Run Studios was facing was very similar to the specification we ran through earlier. They needed a solution that would allow their team of editors lightning fast access to massive live full res files. They wanted to save time and not deal with the hassle of downloading, uploading, and re-uploading. They needed incredibly high performance in their production environment, and just as important, they also needed a backup environment to accommodate those projects. So we utilized a dual FS6400 in a high availability configuration, coupled with a 10 gig connection to that 100 gig switch, ensuring there were no bottlenecks. The all-flash array plus the 10 gig connection allowed them to edit live their giant high-res media files in the same manner as we showed earlier. The solution easily supported 35 to 40 employees, creating 13 terabytes weekly. They ran the SA3200 dual controller to be their main monitoring unit because it was not just production and backup, they also had some surveillance involved as well. So once they had all their projects edited, they needed to archive their key projects as well as needing storage for their backups. Part of their archival solution involved repurposing their old RS-3412 RPXS as an archiving unit. For their full backup solution, they made use of their expandable RS-3617XS Plus, and once the data was backed up or archived because they were creating so many terabytes weekly, they needed a large backup environment that would also allow them to offload their data. For this, we utilized Synology C2, our hybrid cloud NAS solution, which was created to be optimized with hyper backup to allow a very efficient way to create the industry standard of 3-2-1 backup. As you'd have your data locally on your devices, and then you'd have the data on the NAS, and from the NAS, it will go to Synology C2. That's your three forms of data. Your two mediums is your data on the NAS and your devices, and Synology C2, the cloud. So that's two different medias, and then one offsite, which is the cloud. We also provided assistance to run studios in incorporating LTO tape for their backup environment for long-term archiving. So that again still hits the 3-2-1. And because they have mutability here, they're also hitting 3-2-1-1-0, one mutable backup and no errors throughout. So, in summary, you should now understand exactly how Synology can be utilized in the media space, as well as it's not just a backup and archival, we can be incorporated in the production environment as well. You should also know the best practices, how to set up a Synology NAS to your editing environment. And lastly, as I mentioned before, you can protect and archive your critical data. So thank you, everyone.